Hey everyone, I'm going to do a quick tutorial going over how to sequence external gear. With me is the Access Virus TI Polar. Tried to get that in view for you so you could see and hear what it... I basically created a very simple patch. It's nothing spectacular. Basically an initialized sound, but there's a few ways to do this. Let's say that you have some external gear that has drum kits in it, and you wanted to use that for your drums instead of the internal sampled sounds from the Spectralis. So let's start with that. First, you'll go and hit Select, and then Shift, and then the button beneath the encoder. So this will work for buttons 1 through 11, and we'll hit that button. And you'll see you'll get to this page that says MIDI redirect for part kick. MIDI definition, we'll put that to 1. Basically, that's going to send all of the MIDI information to channel 1. Now, I only have channel 1 set up on my Virus because I'm in the single mode, not multi-mode or anything. So this will be pretty basic. You can switch that to different channels if you want. And then there's this section called MIDI definition where you can change bank, you can change the sound, the volume that's being transmitted, and then the panning for that. So I'll exit out of that. So now the kick drum is going to be sequencing the virus. So we'll go into Groove Edit and just put down some simple notes. If we go to page 2 of 2, you can change the pitch. And pretty simple. You can do that also. You have to hit Select and go to the snare and change that to MIDI definition. Now I push down the encoder, but I think you can turn it as well. To undo that, so to get out of MIDI, having it just sequencing the internal sound, you have to actually hit the encoder. So that'll go back to these 3 dashes. But we'll go to channel 1, and I'll exit, and then go into Groove Edit, and then just lay down some of those. So you can hear the difference between what the kick drum was putting down and what the snare was putting down. Now again, this isn't a drum kit that I have, obviously, but this is how you would sequence a drum kit from external gear. Now the other thing you can do the same thing for the synth parts, so D-synth 1, 2, and 3. So hold Shift and then press the 13th button, and now go to channel 1. Now, using your keyboard, you can also sequence. You can play these parts and record them. So I could go and hit record real time and just do a 1-bar loop. Since I have sequenced other things on the drum parts, it might not sound right, but we can just try. So that's sequencing. That's sequencing the parts that you're playing for a synth part, which is pretty useful to be able to sequence that directly. Now, of course, I have terrible sounding things going together, but I'm going to delete that. So actually, one thing you can do here, if you don't like the motif that you just recorded, you can push the motif button and exchange motif for part D synth 1, hit edit, and let's go to page 2 of 3, and I'm going to clear that motif so you don't hear it, which is a very good thing because that sounded terrible. But so now remember, for D synth 1, if we hold Shift and then 13, you'll see that it's going to MIDI channel 1. Now something else you can do, well, I guess it's unrelated to that, but you could sequence it this way. But anyway, let's sequence MIDI channel 1 just through the sequence editor instead of through the desynth parts or the drum parts. Now remember, with the drum parts you can only sequence one note, so it's basically the note you tell it to and it's going to sequence that. With the desynth parts you can sequence chords, you can record the chords that you wanted. Now another thing you can do is just sequence a part, and so let's create a new line, go to target, now change the second encoder, go to MIDI, and it's going to send. Now you can transmit MIDI aftertouch, the control parameters, and the MIDI note. So we'll go to MIDI note, and we'll sequence from channel 1, and I'll exit out of that. And now first I'm going to get rid of the groove edit notes that I had. So I'm going to go to groove edit and remove all of my parts for the kick and the snare, so when we push play there's nothing. And if we go to sequence edit, now we're on sequencer line 17. I don't know what it is for you. And I can sequence by holding down the encoder and then pushing a note on my external keyboard for the different notes that I want to hit. So actually, something that's kind of odd with the Spectralis is that now if you didn't hear anything when I push play, when I click the encoder above a note that I put in, the velocity is set to 0. So actually we'll have to set the velocity for all of these. So I'll put the velocity to 63, set all, and now you can hear it. If we go back to target and then type MIDI note and MIDI definition, see the volume's set to 127, but when it sequenced the note, it sequenced 0 as a volume, which can be frustrating, but it is what it is. And so you can just, if you're not hearing anything, make sure to adjust the velocity, and you can set them for all of them, or go to each note and set them individually. So I'll push that encoder and change the velocity, push this encoder, change the velocity. And of course you can change the length. So it's a monophonic sequencer line. You could then make a new sequencer line and sequence a different note on top of that. But those are the basic ways to sequence your external gear. And let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.